means that the sensors are in the wheels.
Yeah.
And so that's, if it has a direct TPMS system, you'll need the machine. If you have an indirect TPMS system, that's normally in the brakes or in the ABS.
Okay.
And those ones you will reset off the menu of the vehicle.
Okay.
Or
Has it not actually been removed?
Sometimes just by driving it resets.
some are just, a majority of them will reset if you pump it. You have, obviously if it comes on, you have to check the pressures to see which one's flat. If they're all flat or low pressure, then you just have to pump them up and take it for a drive, and 9 times out of 10 they reset themselves, or you have to go through one of the menus like on a Beamer or an Audi or a Mercedes. You have to actually physically go through and reset it. That's on an indirect TPMS. The direct, you'll see all of it when you bring over the machine. It'll have direct TPMS and indirect. Direct means in the wheels, indirect means in the brakes.
Okay.
There's 2 types of frequencies only. It's 433 megahertz and 315 megahertz. Again, you'll see those on the machine. And they're the only megahertz that will read nothing else. And they connect back to the computer on the car, and it'll come up on the machine when you scan the transwitch.
Okay.
Anything else?
Do you use the machine to reset them, or do they reset usually by the computer?
We'll show you how to do those as well. With Ross knows more about how to scan, like the positioning and stuff. I get quite ho-ha with it. It's time consuming. It's not something that is like a simple puncher where you actually have to take some time out and get your head around it, because if you rush it, it'll go wrong. That's it, really.
Every sensor setup is different. Some of them, you press a button and it will detect it when you're walking up to the car. Others you have to move around and try and get a better reception.
Put your hand up over here and then go over here. Pull your tongue out.
And sometimes in behind the wheel as well, through the aluminium, just whatever you need to do to get a read. But you know, after a while, certain types of cars are real easy. Certain types of cars, you know, you're going to be in for a struggle.
Okay.
And you're always trying to read them on the car first, yeah?
Oh yeah. The first thing is to identify a car with TPMS. Then the second thing is to read all the sensors before you even pull a wheel off, because that was number one reason for doing it. We'll rip a wheel off, wreck a sensor, and then maybe some other places you've seen they put it back on, it drives away, and then they say, oh, that happened while I was in your workshop, and you go, no, it didn't. Well, if you've scanned it first and one doesn't work before you start, well,
You
that's
can
their problem.
indicate there if that's
Yeah.
starting problem.
Yeah, you can say you've got a problem with the sensor there before you even do anything.
Yeah.
Or then you do the job, check them all out. If they all work perfectly, it left here perfect.
Yeah.
So no one can hang anything back on you that it didn't work. So it's really only the cost of the units. Some of the Ford Ranger ones I think you can get for $85 now. They're retail, they're cheap.
Yeah.
But others are hundreds and hundreds of dollars each.
Yeah, I remember a Mercedes one was like $300-400.
Yeah.
Average tire pressure sensor will last. The battery life will last about 5 years.
Okay.
You know, that's so. With Ross saying, and 9 times out of 10 we don't do it because we don't realize, oh shit, until we've taken it off.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But we should really get into the habit, especially if you're driving it in. I mean, it's pretty simple. You're watching the dash. You know, when you turn the car on, if you see the light, you know what I mean? Then get the machine.
Get them all read up first.
Yeah. So,
If it's got rubber valves too, you can go up to one of the valves and give it a little wiggle, and you can make the sensor tap on the rim and you go
Yeah,
tick, tick,
tick.
up, and you know straight away. Or if you're unsure, just try testing one wheel, and if you don't get a signal, it doesn't have it.
a majority of the information, I should have brought the machine over. A majority of the information that you can find about any of the cars, it'll have on the machine anyway. So when he brings it over, you select whatever year it is and whatever car, it'll have TPMS with direct TPMS or indirect. And then it'll give you the options and tell you what you need to do. It's like I said, it just takes time. All you have to do is literally sit there and just read it, and it'll tell you what to do. It doesn't take a absolute, yeah. Oh. So I'll show you. So on here, when it loads, So I have check tire pressure sensor. You can select all the options are there. If we have a car here and the option is not on here, I'll show you around. James knows how to change the location. You change countries because some of them have different countries, different options in different places. So let's say we're doing, I don't know, a Porsche.
Main ones are US and Europe.
Yeah. So we're saying a Porsche, everything's there, 911, the year, and then there it is. You just go around and scan. So this one, obviously, this particular Porsche will have the tire pressures in the wheels because it didn't give you an option of saying, yeah, it'll only give you the option if it's in, if the tire pressure sensors is in there.
And that's what you've taught from us before is
Yeah.
start with that.
Start with the left front and work your way around.
Work your way around.
Yeah. If the year is different, then just pick the next one because the years will change as you go down. Okay, so if there's like a Golf and then there's like 2001 Golf and a 2021 Golf, it'll not normally be the options lower.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Further down it.
Anything else?
No.
If the car option that you don't have is not on here, go back to the main screen, head down to settings, go to it's on Europe, and there's your options there.
Europe, Japan,
Okay,
Korea.
so 9 times out of 10 it'll be Europe or USA and Canada.
Just repeats all our cars are all Japanese anyway.
But the
Is that
The-
because like Japan doesn't have TPMS?
they do, but it's just where the
Japanese
car's
cars.
made, and the you know what I mean.
Don't generally get them.
Like Toyotas don't usually have them. Is that
Indirect.
Jaguars, for example, might have different for US, different for Europe, different for somewhere. So
So you have a look at like Colorados. I always talk about Colorados because they're confusing and they get made in heaps of different places.
Yeah.
So the US ones, the US Colorados in particular will come up. I'll put it in. I'll show you. Hold on. So if I click USA, go back, go check TPMS, it loads and it'll take, I don't know, like 2 minutes since. This is gonna take ages, yeah. But it's loading the database of the USA and Canada ones.
Oh, okay.
There's
Is
no
it connected to the Wi-Fi or is it? No.
There's-
It's all inside it.
There's no Holden option. It comes up under Chevy. Also, there's no Colorado options, so it has to come under Captiva.
Okay.
Okay, so there is ways around it. So if there's a car that comes in that's not in there, if you select the car, if you select something relatively close, you'll be able to read the sensors.
It's the main thing.
Yeah.
Pick them up and read them.
Okay, but the problem with that is that when it comes to resetting them, you may not be able to reset them.
It was like that vehicle that came in. It was like almost an Escalade, and it wasn't a Chevy.
Chevy, yeah.
It was a Holden Escalade.
Yeah, it's stupid. It does stuff like that all the way. Yeah. But the Colorados in particular, if they come from the USA, under the USA it'll read as a 433 sensor. If it comes up under Europe, it comes up as a 315 sensor.
Okay.
So if you scan it and it comes, I'll show you, it comes up with a little red warning light saying that's the wrong one. You just have to change frequencies and it'll come up and say that's the right
But
one.
it still picks it up. But
Yeah,
this
it'll still pick it up and just say, oh, it's the wrong sensor.
You should try changing it to this.
Yeah, but if you change it in, it'll wreck the truck.
Yeah.
'Cause you have to-
this is kind of like the trial and error that you do when you're not super familiar with it yet. But as you go and do it more and more, years down the track, you'll know all the different variations and see the right one.
It's pretty,
Just look
like,
at the car and get
like I
to
said,
know.
it's time consuming if you can get your head around it, but once you get obviously the more and more you do it, the faster and faster you become. And so when I've shown some of these before, I just don't talk to you because I just do it, and then I'm like, oh, actually I have to explain what I'm doing now.
You know what you're pushing.
So see, look, so it's come up now. So there's two options you can do it. You can do it manually, or you can scan it, but I've never ever used a scan because it's never worked for me.
Over a few times the Dodges and some of the American market cars, the Jeeps, they've got inside the passenger door, they've got a sticker down
Oh,
the
the barcode one.
barcode sticker
Yeah.
there, and you can sometimes scan it,
Mm.
which is sometimes knocks out the problems you have with going from the registration information trying to identify the model. The barcode sticker will bypass all that and give you the correct VIN.
Not actually what it's supposed
But
to
that's not 100% usable all the time. You're going to have to just try your best.
So those barcodes on the window.
No, on the
On the
on the
Bottom
side
of
of
the
the
B
door,
pillar.
when you open the door, it's on the door
On that
facing
side.
the catch.
Oh, okay.
It's a big sticker.
Yeah, same.
It's about 60 mil wide, about that long.
You probably have a VIN number stamped on that sticker as well.
Yeah.
And so, same kind of thing. It won't be in here if it's a direct TPMS, but it will be in the reeling procedure, which I'll show you again also. So, let's take and the BMW outside. Answers BMW. If you click on service, manual, there'll be different options in here. Some cars will be in here, some cars won't be in here.
That's a pretty good selection, though.
The BMW. What's yours? A 7 Series.
X2. X2.
What's X2? 2021.
20.
2020. See there, with iDrive, without iDrive, there's heaps of different options. So I use the what iDrive is, That's the one where you stop at the brakes and
It
it turns off. Yeah.
It's almost like ice.
So your one has that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
with iDrive.
So it's there. So it'll literally tell you what to do.
Oh, it's a double Jackson, that's
Yeah.
cool.
And that's it. So like I said, it'll tell you what use. I'll show you what the Obdi connector is. We should all know what it is. But that's it just tells you what to do there, and so you just have to read it,
Just
follow it,
step
yeah.
by step, eh?
and that's it. It's pretty much that simple.
So is this all for like changing the sensors for rotating? Or?
With the BMW outside, you don't have to change sensors because it's not in the wheel.
So what is this for doing? Why would
This
you go
would
into these meetings?
resetting the light. So if one
Resetting.
comes in with a puncher,
So you can't just like go through the dashboard thing.
you can. But
Sometimes
if you don't know what you're doing, then it's all here.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you noted that it has TPMS and you're like, oh, what do I do here? Majority of the Beamers are the same.
Yeah, they don't have it in the wheel, they have it in the...
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you just have to
direct
literally go through the menu and just follow it, and it's all there. Do you want to go in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So these Beamers don't have the tire pressures in the wheels, but if one comes in and it has the light on, the easiest way to see where the puncher is if you look on the dash here. If you come across to my vehicle, press the middle, it'll come down to vehicle status. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
And it'll tell you which one's flat.
Oh, that's handy.
So even if it comes up on the dash, this is predominantly on BMWs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's showing they're all green because they're all
Yeah.
good still.
So it's green because they're all good. Yeah. So rather than having to run around and see which one's which, it'll actually tell you on here which one's flat. Yeah. So these ones here, it's in the brakes. It's not in the wheels. And so how it tells you that a tire pressure is flat is because one's driving slower than the rest of them. So that's how it works. One rotation of the wheel is rotating
It's
less.
lagging more behind the others. Yeah.
Now to reset it, all you do is click the middle on tyre settings. It'll come up, perform reset, press it in again. And you see here, resetting flat tyre monitor.
Yep.
And that's it, it's finished.
Well, that's it done.
That's it, done.
Oh, so that can self-reset, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, when you see that light, when you turn it on, it'll have
Yeah.
that tyre light.
So if we go back to the main menu again, it'll come over here, come across to my vehicle.
What you're doing on these effectively is telling the car that the tyres are now all at the correct pressure, things are normal. This is the zero state. So
This
when
is
it, this is
back setting.
yeah.
So if you left the tyre flat and you reset it, it's going to think it's okay, but
That's normal. Flat is the normal condition.
so you can't just change, you can't just fix it.
We're gonna show you that one inside. We're gonna show you that one inside.
Press the wheel, turn
Yeah. So perform reset, and then you can read the little message that's coming up on here. And it's just saying that everything is perfect, everything is good. Yeah, and that's it, it's done. Go back to menu, radio media. I like to leave it on the proper station what they left it on. Yeah, and that's it, it's finished. That's it, turn it off.
Effectively, trouble.
Okay, reader.
This is the reader. If you hold this flat against the tyre, kind of on a diagonal, it reads pretty good. So if you press left front, you better work for me. There we go. You know where it is, but sometimes you just Sometimes it's heaps, honestly, it's heaps of mucking around.
Doesn't detect the signal well.
You just gotta move it around so that it has to be over the valve, obviously.
This is just checking.
Because you want to make sure the sensors are working before you take it off. I get it when Luke's been in for a while, so I get him to help me do it with me. So now, with these, once you're finished reading it, I don't normally do this, but Ross does. So it's going to come on here. You're going to plug it in, and you press print. And this is for our own peace of mind, just to say
Nothing's broken.
nothing's broken.
Oh, this one.
But you can also leave that with the customer.
I staple that to the job sheet, one before the job starts,
And one
before the
after?
job before it goes.
Yeah.
So you've got the air pressures there, you've got the battery life, battery status.
Temperature.
Temperature.
Yep.
I'll show you. So with the pressure, with the pressure sensor, so that's how much pressure's in it. That's the megahertz that it runs off, the 433 or 315. That's how hot the tire is, and that's the battery life. If the battery life is under 70%, I only found out, it'll come up as yellow, and it'll say like low. If it's under 50, it'll say replace. That's only a new feature I've just found out like a couple of weeks ago. So if it's under 70, it'll have change. It'll be yellow, and it'll say replace. And if it's under 50, it'll say change and be red. So if it's okay, it's okay.
Gives you confirmation.
Now with these ones here, with all Ford and Chevys do them too, eh? And Dodges. What is the other one we did the last time? What are the Hellcats? The Dodgers, they all pretty much do the same. They all run off the same kind of system. Because I've done a Hellcat as well off the same one. So it's pretty simple. So brake in, brake out. This goes on 3. 1, 2, 3. Brake in, brake out. Off. 3 again. 1, 2. Now the relearn procedure has started. So if Joseph starts on the left front, just go back to forward.
Oh, so it signifies that now it's waiting for you to.
So now it's waiting for you to tell which sensor is where on the truck.
The good thing is the options stay on the same as the last one you used. So if you've already been around and tested it, you can go through the same procedure options.
That's handy.
Yeah, it's only a hassle if you're doing 3 or 4 different vehicles at once.
At once, yeah, it's going to be.
So now it's actually telling us on the dash which one we're going to change to.
What it's doing is the
It's not
machine.
just reading, it's sending something else.
What it means is that the machine is triggering the sensor, and the sensor is sending a radio signal to the ECU, and the ECU picks it up and says, "Oh, I know that." It's transmitted its serial number, and because you're doing it in order, it knows that's the position.
Yeah.
So now it's come up on the dash and training is complete. All you do is turn the truck off, and that's it. It's finished.
And the Holden Colorados, I didn't get that on film. How do you do those?
It's the same. So that with the Colorados and the Captivas, there's a button on here that has set and clear and reset. It's not on this one. It's only on Colorados. But what you do is you scroll through the menu until you see the tire pressure come up on the dash, and then you just press hold and set on the clear. Set, and it'll come up as relearn procedure. You click yes, and then it'll beep. Pretty much the same thing, and then you just follow the procedure. That's on pretty much all Holdens that have tire pressure sensors.
And that one, the last one, it goes beep beep.
On the end, on the final one.
So it's saying that it's leaving the whole round.
Procedure.
Program service means how to reset the light. Program is when we're going to start learning how to reprogram them or program the sensors.
Oh, is it for a new sensor?
for a new sensor.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you click on program, all the options should be there. We're going to click sensor, and we only deal with alligator sensors. That's only what we do at Drury.
Yeah.
Okay?
The rest of those
So-
are all different types.
Yep, and they're all sensors that we can get in program as well, but we only deal with alligator. So if we click on alligator, it should come up with the right thing, Ford Ranger 2015. So we can go create a new one, we can go copy. So if it already has a sensor in it and you're just wanting to replace it, maybe the battery's low and you want to put in a new one, just click copy. And there's retrieve ID, which I'll show you, which is the easiest when the sensors are broken, and copy set. So if we're going to create a new one, we'll just click create. It'll tell you which sensor you need, and the boxes are labeled in there. And so you just click program, and then it'll program the sensor. You just hold the sensor here, and it'll just program the sensor. Yeah.
So you're talking about like if it's broken off on the inside,
Yeah.
so you can actually retrieve the.
Now this is, if the old sensor is destroyed, you've got parts, and you're wanting to program a completely new one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to wrap my head around.
So yeah, so that's if you're wanting to create. So if you create a new one, then you have to. I'll show you how to program it now with putting it in here and getting it all done that way. But I found if you copy the sensor and you reprogram one of our sensors, it reads. So you don't have to do any reprogramming because it's the exact same sensor that came out of.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If the sensor is destroyed beyond, if we've smashed it off or fitting it or whatever, if we click on retrieve ID, it'll actually tell you what sensor.
That is.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So rather than having to create a new sensor and then start from scratch, you can actually retrieve them from the ECU, and it'll tell you.
Oh, and it'll just automatically sync that one with it all.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So if we click on retrieve ID, I've shown the boys how to do this a couple times, so the Obdi tool is this one here. In Fords, if you pull off the dash, this one here,
It's got a label right there for it.
it should have. I think it's got Obdi on the bottom here as well. So if you pull this off, I don't want to pull it too hard. in
Until
case
it breaks.
That's what. So there's our label there. Now this will only read if it's on. What did I do with the key?
What's this here?
What do you do with the key?
No, we located it.
So if you plug it in, so when it's beeping fast like that, it means it's trying to read. When you plug it in, I've shown the boys this heaps of times, it should slow down.
Yeah.
So when it slows down, it means it's connected. So if I press OK, 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 it should retrieve all the IDs for the. There we go.
Yeah. That's quick.
Okay.
Turn it up, and then the lights started singing. It's like.
So if you scan this first, what I normally do is I scan it first. If one of them's broken, it's not rocket science. It just means that one of them's missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
And
broken
so
one will be missing to the. Yeah.
and so if I'll show you. I'll grab a sensor.
Oh, look, it says
I
to
don't know.
copy solution.
I'm just gonna get it heaps of times. So if you program it once, it doesn't mean it's just programmed for that specific one. You can program it for heaps of other things if it doesn't
Just like a
work.
tape, you can keep
Yeah.
copying over.
Tape.
So if you-
What's a tape?
Dinosaur.
Masking tape.
So where it says to copy, so if it's this one that you need to replace, all you have to do is press the little green button. It'll tell you what sensor you need. Press program.
Oh, it's loading.
It's loading it all now.
That's cool.
But if you'd only read 3 sensors because the other one was broken, you wouldn't. How would you copy that?
Because it's plugged into
Because
the
it's
ECU.
plugged into the ECU.
Okay.
So
So,
all
oh,
the-
so all that came from the ECU, not
He's just-
from the reading you did before.
He's just retrieved the
yeah.
4
I see.
identities,
And a little
intact identities from the ECU.
Yeah.
And it'll come up as copied. So now this one here, if we put it into the left front one,
Yeah.
the customer could just drive off and it'll work fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
And so that's now like because it's transferring or doing
So
whatever.
it's already finished. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the really simplest way to do it
Retrieve
on
the
a
ID.
majority of the cars.
Yeah.
Copy set as needed before, isn't it?
Yeah. And so copy set, you just copy all the set and then just reprogram all the set.
Quite a bit highly unlikely you got full broken as well.
Yeah. So let me do this other time. That's it.
You've got
Luke
one
and Josh?
failed sensor and you've done the salesman.
Luke and Josh.
Look, and Josh,
So now if we're going to create one from scratch, so that's the easiest way to do it. If you're going to create from scratch, we'd click create. It'll tell you what sensor again. So the same sensor. So I'm just reprogramming it with a different code now. So each time you reprogram one, it'll just give you a different code.
And it'll wipe out the other one.
It'll wipe out the other one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now we could put this one anywhere in the car. We'd just have to reprogram
Where it is.
where it is. Yeah. And when you
left hand, right hand.
yeah, so if we put it in there, when you reprogram when you create a new sensor, you don't do the reprogram sensor for like how we did it with the beeps.
Okay.
You actually have to plug it into here and,
Have to go
and tell
through
the
the actual
ECU
central
that it's a
frame.
new. Yeah. And so it's pretty
That
much
makes
exactly the
sense,
same as
So it's way easy to do.
it's
Receive
way
ID and
easier
copy
to
it.
do
Just
retrieve
to
ID.
retrieve ID.
Yeah.
Because-
And about eight out of 10 of them will have this option.
That's why it pays to do it first thing before you take the wheel off, strip the tyre before you do any. If you've got that info there, it'll
And
be
that's-
easy to reprogram the.
That's why I showed you
Straight
how to do the retrieve ID one first,
Yeah.
because to create a sensor, there's heaps more steps. It's not as simple, but that's really.
Because that's basically taking the information from there, just put it straight on the new one, and you can use
And
it
they
straight
never
away.
used to have this option. That's only like the last 6 months.
Oh,
They're just gonna help.
Yeah, and so that's why I was like, oh, makes it easy.
nice. Yeah.
And so that's why heaps of the time mucking around last time was because you had to create it and you had to reprogram it and then you had to rescan it and then.
I've seen Ross doing it, and then he holds it like this, and then he's got to do something else over there and another.
And so if we put this in now, so if we go back to the beginning, so this is a program sensor. We'll go service.
Program is a new one.
Yeah, programmed as a new one. We'll go service. Ford Ranger 2015, and we'll have manual relearn because we've put a new one in. Oh no, actually we'll have relearn like with this one.
Yeah.
And so we click relearn. It'll tell you everything that you need to do. It'll tell you to do the
Just a
same thing, but
step-by-step
that wouldn't work.
procedure,
Yeah. It's pretty much exactly what I told you to do before.
Follow what it says on there, and then
So now you'd click OK. You'd run around, and then when you're finished, it'll come up with the little little button down here on the left, and then you'd connect it and just follow the steps.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So it just brings that for those.
The clock, there's a little tiny picture of it looking at the
Oh
end
yes. Yeah.
on, and
Oh, I might have stuck one different ones then.
there is also now a universal one that will up there that will fit several different types,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
several different types
Like-
of flats
like
and
it's
corners and
generically
rounds,
made
and
for- yeah.
but basically the brass end of the valve should fit nicely into the shaped hole on the sensor, and then you put the screw in from the bottom with the torque limited screwdriver.
Which is this one here.
Oh, yeah.
So when you get tight enough, it just goes.
So when you get tight enough, yeah, it'll literally just stop winding.
Winding nice. Yeah, so you don't give it.
Tight enough.
keep winding till it clicks.
Yeah. I'm gonna
So
say.
there's two sensors but lots of different valves. Is that
Yeah.
how?
So
it
Jeeps
works?
have different ones, Fords have different ones.
But
Dodges
they got
have
the same
different
sensors.
Yeah.
If you're using those replacement valves up the top, you are replacing the valve for a factory sensor. Okay, the factory sensors like for Ford, like for Holden, like for Dodges and all those, they've got specific patterns, and you use those valves to match up to them. If you're having to replace a sensor with one of the alligator sensors, they've got a different shape system, like he just demonstrated with the pin or the ball. Okay, so there are those two basic differences. If you're just replacing the valve with a factory sensor, you go to one of those valves up there.
Wait, we're replacing a valve with a sensor?
Yeah, the one that's already in the
They're
car.
two different things.
Yeah.
And if you're replacing the valve with the factory sensor,
You're not
now
replacing
Ford
the
Ranger
sensor.
comes in and you're just replacing the valve because you replaced the valve with the tyre.
You'd replace it with this one.
So you put a new rubber valve in, but put the
Old
sensor
back
on the
up.
bottom.
Yeah.
Change the sensor over to the new valve.
And then you don't have to reset it or do anything. It's just
Wait,
pump it up.
So you know,
The
when
sensor and the valve is separate, right?
Yeah.
Then why would you? How could you replace a sensor with a valve? They both need to be in the car.
it's language here that we want to replace the valve, so
Yeah.
the old one goes out and you put a new one in. What you have to do is
Yeah.
take the sensor off the old valve, put the
unscrew
new
it.
valve in, and put the
sensor
sensor
back
onto
on.
the
Okay.
new valve.
So you keep the sensor.
Yeah, reusing the
We
sensor.
just
Yeah, the idea is, it's just like a sock oil, not last as long as a shoe. A sensor will generally,
Lasts
Well,
longer.
well,
You don't buy a new shoe with every pair of socks, do you?
Yeah.
And then,
So
and then,
I
and then you have
valves-
ones like Mercedes. Hold on, I'm just trying to push on to carry on. Others will be here for hours and hours. Mercedes ones, they have metal valves with a ball seat one to replace the seals because the seals get broken. You literally unscrew it here. Oh, gosh. The seals here. We have all of these in here.
Oh,
Okay, so each different one, you literally just have to find which one
So
it
the
is.
valves are reusable, just
Yeah,
I
so
already
you just,
replaced that.
it's just a
It's a
seal,
steel
and,
one, I think.
and it'll literally just peel off like I'm showing you.
Sometimes the valve stem itself will break, and there are spares in there, so you can.
So we've got some
replace-
backups.
Yeah. So one came in just 2 weeks ago. Mercedes, that someone had hit a curb or
Oh, is that
something,
good?
and it knocked the end off the valve. It's still held there, but you couldn't pump it up or do anything. So we had to disassemble it all, replace the stem.
And so it's
And
it
put a new
really
kit
is
in it.
it really is.
Oh wait,
You have
even
to,
I done that wheel.
yeah.
See, the issue is why we've actually got the TPMS unit is years ago when Ross was here, we broke a customer's VHS sensor of their Holden, and it cost us $700 to replace one.
$800.
800, yeah, to replace one sensor. And Ross said we can get these blanks sensors, clone the information. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, you know. And the blanks would only cost you like $80 to $100. So what would you rather spend, $80 to $100 or $700? Now shops everywhere were employing young fellas out of school, and they're snapping sensors like they were going out of fashion. 800 here, 800 here, 800 here, 800 here. Okay, and what it is because I explained to the customers, what you've got is a nice robust wheel and tyre, but in behind there's a sensor which is like a daffodil, and it's a delicate daffodil, and it breaks real easy. And if you're not awake, it can cost thousands of dollars. So this is why we're having this training night, because
But you even have people who have been in the industry for 100 years, like we've got a couple of them here,
yeah,
and just them wrapping their old brains around new technologies is a little bit outside of their comfort zone.
And accidents happen.
Yeah, and accidents happen. You know, like the most experienced, we've had heaps of experienced fitters who's accidentally broke one off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's experience. You know what I mean? So
Practice.
it's practice. I've been doing it for nearly 8 years now, and if someone come to ask me and said, "Can you show me?" I'd be like, "No." It takes me time. It takes me at least 15 minutes to get my head around the beginning of it. And so when Ant was saying before about charging it, we have to charge out our time, otherwise we could spend all day. Yeah, we could spend all day for it, and I mean, even just simple reprogramming is $50. That $50 will either take you 5 minutes or it'll take you an hour and a half. You know
You
what I
need
mean?
it to be covered that way.
Yeah.
But the good thing is you guys have been shown now how to clone, okay, and you can watch this video back again, plus YouTube, you know, and plus
YouTube is everything these days.
yeah, but
You
like
can-
Jordan was a good tip. He says look for the 3-minute ones, don't look for the long-winded ones.
So they actually explain what you want to know quickly.
Yeah, because you can be
Avoid the
there.
one Ant posts up.
Yeah, well, this one's 25 minutes so far,
Mine's 30 for the first one.
but it's got you guys smiling. So
Yeah.
who's gonna?
And they're-